You tuned in to the office.
We got 343 people. We only got 135 shares. We definitely want to share the room. So, Ron, if you want to come off mute and just introduce yourself to the audience that's in front of you.
Can I talk after him?
Yes. You want the long story or the short story?
However you want to give it, Ron. Like a lot of people on this side may not be familiar with who you are, which is why, as I said to you in the conversation, I wanted to bring you over to this side. So whether you want to do the long or short, the brothers, we ain't going nowhere. We definitely want to hear. So the floor is yours to speak how you see.
So I'm my dad's a pastor, Pentecostal Apostolic Church, and I am a physician assistant by career. I used to work in the hospital for 18 plus years, and let's just say that working in the trauma hospitals of Detroit, like Detroit Receiving, Sinai Grace Hospital, these are level one trauma hospitals that seeing all the liquor stores and the churches on the corner and going to church every Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday revivals, convention, youth day, vacation Bible school, all these things that we used to do. That it didn't make sense where our people were destroyed and getting society was getting worse in terms of what I saw every summer or every year working in the hospitals in Detroit. And so one day I was sitting in the back of a church, my dad's church, in the afternoon service, and I just opened up the Bible, and Deuteronomy 28 was the first chapter that was there. So I started reading it, and I read it from the beginning to end. And then after I read that, I just looked up, looked outside the window, and just looked at the pastor, and I said, this is sound like us, and I tried to compare it to the Jewish people, and it didn't. I said, there's nothing in here that I see that the Jewish people I went through. So I started to question if the curses of Israel are upon our people, and it's not. I don't see that in the Jews today. Then, what is going on here? And so none of the pastors in the organization of the Church of Our Lord Jesus Christ could answer these questions. And so I just asked God to show me the truth and to let me know the answers the answers to to my questions. And so eventually I started to research these things and white Jesus, black Jesus, and it just led me down a rabbit hole that the doors kept opening, and it's almost like the video game The Legend of Zelda, where you just keep opening up doors after door after door after door, and
Right.
get to a secret door, and then you you gotta have a secret key to get to that door, and then you find out what you got to do to get to the next level. And so that's kind of like how my research began, and how it it furthered until I decided that a lot of what I learned I needed to share with people in the church community. But the church community didn't want to hear that. They just wanted me to speak on prostate cancer in the black community, and different things that black people needed to know that they were suffering from, like diabetes and high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease and stuff like that. And they didn't want to hear anything I studied for 3 or 4 years. So I just decided then to put it in a book. Um, Never wrote a book before. I just said that I know how to write a paper, but a book author is not something I am. But I just went ahead and started typing up chapters and naming the chapter, and I just kept doing that until I had 50 chapters, and then I put out the first book. And after that book, it was more information than I had. I made the second book and the third book and the fourth book,
Hey,
and then
Ron,
I
what was the
realized
what was the name of Ron? What was the name of the first book? Was it the same title or did you like have a different title?
they're all the same title. It's Hebrews to Negroes Wake Up Black America. And
Gotcha.
so
Okay.
yeah, because we were basically called Hebrews, and we got our name changed to the Bible word Negro. So it's like a code word for what we originally were, and now we're known as something else. And so that's why I titled it from Hebrew. Well, a lot of people say from Hebrews to Negroes, but it's really Hebrews to Negroes Wake Up Black America. and that's the title of all four books. And then after that, I decided to make a movie or try to do something in that realm because black people don't really read books like that, especially big, thick books. And at that age, we had you know uh, Instagram, we had MySpace, we had Facebook, different things of that nature, movies, and so I said, let me make a
Hey, Ron.
movie.
Hey,
Of,
Ron. Before you get to the movie part with the books, right? Were you publishing the books like on Amazon then before you got to the movie? And the reason I'm asking is just so people can have a timeline, because of course you and I know the movie was out before 2022, but just to give this audience a little backdrop, when was the first book that you had? When was it first come out? Like what year was that? And subsequent the other ones after.
well, the first book, a lot of people wouldn't publish it because they would look at the title, they would get a synopsis of what the book is about, and then they would say, my publishing company said no. It doesn't matter if it was a black person. They usually work for a white publishing company, and when the white people got a hold of the book or the information, they rejected it. So then I finally
Right.
found
That's important.
I finally found a independent black publisher, and she published it, and we got it. We published it at the end of 2014 in December, and then the rest of the books, kind of the hardback, the paperback, all that stuff, the ebook, all started to follow in 2015.
Gotcha. And who was the name of the sister that published it for you?
Her
Do you know?
Well, she goes through It's called G Publishing. G, like the letter G. She's based out of Detroit, so she does
Okay.
a lot of books for black people that do smut books and whatever book that black people like to do in Detroit, in that area. She publishes her books.
Gotcha. And that's why I wanted to mention that because it's good to know that because like the fight that you had, like you said, you got when they see the information because they can control the narrative, which goes right to what we'll get to. At least you was able to find a publisher, a black woman, black sister that was able to put it out for you. So without you doing the research, her putting the information out, we might not be here. So and again, I'm just trying to let everybody see the timeline of how we got to the book and movie itself, and then of course we'll get into the Kyrie side. But you can go ahead.
So the movie, um, I remember that I was in the hospital at Henry Ford, and I was at Starbucks, and I was standing in line getting some tea, and this pastor, he was walking down the the hallway, and he said, well, his story was that God told him to go stand behind me and talk to me. So he walked in there, he stood behind me. I got my tea. I sat down, was drinking it early in the morning, like 6:30 in the morning, and then he sat on the other side of me with his whatever he had, coffee, and then he said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm doing great." He said, "It's good to see a black brother with a white coat." And I said, "Thank you." And then he said, "It's not a lot of us here at this hospital that I see." And I said, "I know." So then he said, then he started asking me questions. He said, "I'm a pastor." And he said, "I'm gonna tell you this." He said, "Something told me to come stand behind you, and I believe it was God that told me to come stand behind you because I was supposed to go see somebody because as a pastor you usually go do checkups on your people in your church, like a chaplain. You just go to make sure they're okay and make sure you showed your face, that the pastor of the church showed their face to one of the members. But he stood behind me, and then he sat down and he talked to me, and told me he was a pastor. And I said, "What church?" And he told me the church, a pretty large church in Detroit. And so then he said, so we started talking. Then I said, "My dad's a pastor too." And then I said, "Oh," he said, "Oh, okay, good." And I asked him, "Let me ask you a question." And I said, "What color is Jesus? Was he white or black?" And then he looked at me and he said, "Black." And I said, "Do you teach your church that?" He said, "No, they can't handle it." And I said, "What do you mean they can't handle it?" He said, "Do you know if I told my church that Jesus was black, then basically I'll be telling them that the Jews are black, or the Hebrews are black, or the Israelites are black. And he said that, that's a lot for people to handle, because then they're gonna start asking about the Sabbath. They're gonna have all these questions. He didn't want to deal with that at that moment, and then he didn't want to lose, be ostracized by the rest of the church, governing bodies at the top. And so I said, oh, okay, but you're a pastor over your flock, and you're supposed to be able to provide the truth to as a shepherd to your flock. And he said, yeah, but it's just now it's not the time, and they're not ready. And I told him, I said, well, I wrote a book called Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America. And then he said, what it's about? I said, it's about us being the Israelites. And then he said, he said, how many pages is it? And I said, it's 700 pages. And then he said, black people ain't gonna read no book. He said, you need to, he said, I'm gonna tell you right now, he said, nobody's gonna read that book. And I said, yeah, I said, people are gonna read it, but you're right, black people don't read. They might not want to pick up a book that they can read it, because we're all into the age of watching things on TV and on screen. And he said, if you want to get black people's attention, you got to make a movie. And I said, well, I was thinking about that, but I'm not a filmmaker. And so basically, after he said that, that's when I started, thinking about making a movie. Regardless of the fact that I wasn't a filmmaker, I didn't go to school for it, and I didn't know the slightest on how to get it done. But
So can I
when this
please
world,
ask him a movie as a filmmaker, especially? I'm not trying to be rude.
If yeah, well, you definitely are
uh,
being rude. I want the brother to be able to speak and
I'm
tell his story.
sorry.
There will be a time for a question,
I'm a
but I just
filmmaker,
want
that's
him
why.
because a lot of these in it. Okay, who's that talking? Give me a name.
It's MS.
MS on the stage. I just want to see where you
MS.
are.
MS.
Okay, no sweat. If everybody could just mute up, I want the brother. A lot of times when he comes in, it's either confrontation. Nobody has actually heard his story or how he got this book out. That's more important than the Q&A, which we'll get to the Q&A. And his journey is important because he's the one that's being vilified as if he done something anti-Semitic or anything like that. So we're gonna let him tell his story, interview him, and then there'll be a Q&A. This is the second time you came off mute, sis. Just be quiet like everybody else is quiet. Let me and him do it. I apologize for that, Ron. You can continue.
so yeah, so then I just tried to figure out how to make a movie. And then of course, you got to have music, you got to have a narrator, if it's a documentary, and then you got to have you know pictures or videos. And so I had to put it all together to paint the picture and to get the point across of what I was trying to make. And that took about 3 years to make, and a lot of it from my own money. And then I released the movie in 2000, the end of 2018, early 2019. And so it's been streaming on Amazon and Vimeo on demand since like 2019. Since 2019.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight that point too because this is not a new. Like it didn't come out like last year or year before. It's been out roughly almost over about 3 years, correct?
Yes.
On Amazon.
Yes.
And so, and that's important too because it's only because Kyrie shared it um, that it makes a point. Before you continue, I have did something. I went on Amazon and I just typed in Hitler just to see because I know Hitler couldn't be on Amazon with all the hell they giving the brother the Hebrews and Negroes. And there's so many books and information you can find out about Hitler, who's the quintessential anti-Semitic poster child, but he's allowed to flourish on that. I just wanted to point that out. You can continue though, Ron. I apologize.
No, but yeah, the Hitler's book is on there, and a lot of other books are on there that goes against the Jews and who they say they are. And we all know these books like the 13th Tribe and the Invention of the Jewish People and the Life of an American Jew in Marxist Israel, The Hidden Tyranny by Benjamin Friedman, The International Jew. People, talking about that too. Henry Ford. And there's other books, there's Who Was Esau and other things like that nature. So there's a lot of books on there that talk about, you know, um, the Holocaust, the Third Reich, Adolf Hitler, all that's the transfer agreement, so many different things. But my movie was mainly to prove to people that watch it that we are the descendants of the Israelites. And there was no movie out that I had seen nowhere on Amazon or anywhere that proved that, and
Right.
used different levels of science and Bible and histories and ancient accounts from different civilizations and ethnic groups, and put it all together to prove that we are the Israelites. Nobody had done that, and I believe that at that time it needed to be done. Because the Jewish community, they will use all types of stuff to prove and say that they're the people. Like they can speak Hebrew, they're in the land. They can whip up some DNA studies or some articles that say this and say that, and use that against people like in the church that are not well studied to say, well, don't you dare say that Jesus is black and you're the Hebrews because you don't speak Hebrew. Your DNA is not found in Hebrew in Israel, and we're keeping these customs and laws, and we haven't skipped a beat, and we left and we came back, and we still know who we are, and you guys don't know who you are, blah blah blah. And so you have to have a lot of evidence to prove who we are, and then you also gotta have a lot of evidence to prove who they are. And even though other nations have done the research on who they come from, in terms of Jewish people that know that they're not the real Jews, and they can prove where they come from, these books, although they're bestsellers and people know about them today, nobody, I mean, black people have wrote books about this, but never had it been done in a movie, and that's the
Right.
difference that
So
they make.
so what are some of the things like that you used or put in the movie for people to know or identify? And because, like you said, a lot of people have done it. No, what you did is almost like a landmark in Black history, especially for those of us that believe that we're Israelites. Like you said, a lot of people wrote books saying we're Israel. You actually went through the diligent, hard job of making a movie out of it, which is not a small task, it's a big task. Then you went through the process of putting it on Amazon for the earth to see. So, what are some of the things for somebody that may not have seen it, or when they go see it, what should they be looking for that you present as evidence? Like, give like a rundown, if you want, of the information that's in the documentary itself.
Well, I first like to give the history of the Israelites and how
That's
they
fine.
were in the
Yeah,
land of
that's fine.
Ham,
You can do that.
and who they were having children with, and the color of Shem and the color of Ham, and showing that the Old Testament didn't involve the Israelites mixing with Europeans or white nations. But then I like to go into the scriptures, and I like to go into accounts from other ethnic groups that were in Central Asia or China or Turkic sources or Iranic sources or Greek Greco-Roman sources, Italian sources, explorers, Arabs, ancient, old Arabs, and then using science such as genetics, use archaeology, use anthropology, you can use craniometry, you can use the analysis of the jaw, you can use linguistics, you can use cartography, the study of maps, ancient maps, also ancient historical texts, uh, and other things. I mean, it's been a while since I looked at the whole movie, myself. But if you combine all these things, in genetics, you combine all these things that you can prove that the European Jews are not indigenous to the land of Israel, or never, nor did they spend any time in Africa or in Egypt back in the day before the Exodus. So their ancestry, based on all this scientific evidence and biblical evidence, and using critical thinking and logic and piecing it all together, their origin is exactly where they left and came to Israel. They were already from that area, like Central Asia and the Pontic Steppes, and like northern Macedonia or Eastern Europe, the Slavic Germanic lands, and majority of people, they migrated to where they are today. So the majority of people were already from their ancestral homeland, which was or Europe, the homeland of the Europeans or the Caucasians, and that's why their DNA on the autosomal side and maternal and paternal points more toward ancient European ancestry than any ancestry that links them to Africa or Shem or any Afro-Asiatic ethnic groups that we see today, because the Afro-Asiatic tongue and speakers there are in Africa, and that's a Hamitic Shemitic language. When you talk about Afro-Asiatic, which the Israelites would have had anyway, because they were a people that were mixed with Ham and Shem.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if you was finished or not, Ron. I ain't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, I'm finished on that part. Yeah.
So now we fast forward to a time where, of course, Kyrie shares the link to the video, and then now all the backlash, which in hindsight, now I know you, and I want to get your take on it before I give how I feel about it. So he shares the video. How has it been for you since he's actually shared the video? Before we get into what they're doing to him, how has it been for you since he's actually shared the video and it's became public that you're the author of the um, book and the movie?
Well, a lot of people don't realize since I started writing the first book, um, my my life has been hell. A lot of people don't see that, but my wife knows more better than anybody else, and but she's been there the whole time. But once I started writing the book Hebrews and Negroes, we have to understand that Satan is not going to be happy about that, and he comes at us in many ways: spiritual, physical, on your job, in your home, your family, your parents, your brothers, your sisters. I mean anything. I mean your finances. It could be anything. And so these are things that affect every last one of us, and we call trials and tribulations and things that we go through. But sometimes when the Most High has a calling on your life, and and the Satan knows that calling that's on your life, just like Satan knew about Job, and God allowed him to test Job, and Job went through the fire. Basically lost it all, but he still stood steadfast. And so prior to Kyrie doing what he did, a lot of times you as a I was, for me, I'm not a part of any assembly or any camp, so I'm kind of like solo, and I'm doing this, just Ron Dalton against the world, basically trying to get this movie and book out to people the best way that I can. And so, a lot of times it gets hard when you don't have a lot of support from the global Black community, or just people that you would think would support. And so, being the fact that I have a large family, and I'm self-funding these movies and these books, sacrificing a lot of things based on the calling that the Most High has given me, and the direction that He's been leading me through. Even though it's been through the fire, I knew that eventually, something had to give. Either I'm going to give up, or there has to be a breakthrough. Because at some point you cannot. You have everybody has a breaking point where they just want to give up. Moses had a breaking point, and a lot of people had a breaking point in the Bible. But the Most High usually comes in and says, "Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that." Remember Moses was overwhelmed, and the Israelites were complaining. They didn't have faith. He had a lot of Israelites that he had to deal with, and that he needed the 70 elders. He needed to show them miracles. He needed a lot of things. But in terms of my case, prior to what Kyrie did, like 2 days prior to what Kyrie did, I'm not gonna say what led up to it, but basically, I had went outside, got in my car, because the car is a quiet spot when you have 8 kids, and your kids are all young, and the house is real busy. And as long as your wife sees you in the house, she's gonna ask you to do something. So I went in my car late at night, like the wee hours of the morning, like 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and I just prayed. I prayed to the Most High, and I said, I said, you gave me this gift for a reason. You gave me all this knowledge. You allowed me to be able to put it together, to teach it, to make a book, to make movies, to impact a lot of people worldwide. Uh, but yet I'm over here struggling, and I'm going through the fire, and I need some help. I need, basically, I'm saying I need the brother needs some help. Can I get some help? Can I get a sign? Can I get anything to show me that you have not left me and that you're here, even though you're in a tight spot and you need help. But of course, I don't want to ask everybody for help. I want to ask people for this and that, because at the end of the day, a lot of times we don't we look at people and ask them for support, and we think like, okay, he's begging again. He's begging for support. He's begging for this and begging for that. Why should we pay for this? Why should we pay for that? Blah blah blah. And so basically, I prayed and prayed and prayed, and after I finished praying, I went to bed, and like a day or two later, a brother, and name was Lorvins. He called me. I was in the bathroom, and he said, bro, he said, I wanna just cry right now I want to cry for you right now for what just happened. And I said, what did Kanye West say something about me on my movies? Like, he watched it, and he was like, nah. He said Kyrie Irving posted your link to your movie on Twitter, and he said, do you know who Kyrie Irving is? And I said, yeah, I heard of him. And he said, well, people are now talking about it, and it's a big thing. And then he said go to his Twitter and his Instagram story and check it. So I checked it, and I said, oh, I said, wow. I said, because all this time I knew other celebrities had knew about the book Hebrews to Negroes in the movie, and they actually had watched it, and some of them actually had gotten the book and told others. And I'm getting direct messages on Instagram from celebrities. I'm seeing their comments in the post that I do on Instagram. These are celebrities, black celebrities that people don't know who they are, but none of them would ever post the book or the movie on their social media platforms. It just so happened that Kyrie Irving did that. When he did that, the whole world is now curious about what this movie is.
When you say
And
that, so like, and the reason why I was asking you your opinion, like, we as believers or followers of the Most High, we believe in the prophetic nature of how things happen. So before I wanted to give my opinion, I definitely wanted to hear yours, because I look at it, and even if you think like you wanted a sign and you look for something, and then Kyrie shares it, do you feel like the Most High gave you a way for this to bring more information, not only to your movie, but also to who we are as a people, who Black people are, like in America and abroad, as far as being the children of Israel?
yeah, I think that this what he just did is is I see it as something we shouldn't take lightly. I think that
Hmm.
in this day and time, this is almost like a warning. It's a warning that either you accept who you are and understand your role in Bible prophecy and start to prepare for what's to come next, or you just, as a black person, you just reject it and don't understand who you are and your purpose and your destiny and how you fit in end times biblical prophecy, and you might end up, it might end up costing your life, or you might end up, being in a bad situation in the future because you had a chance to see this information or get exposed to this information, and you just denied it, because there's a lot of people that are in Africa that are they're severely blinded by Roman Catholic Church Catholicism and white Jesus and the things that the white pastors and bishops and and what do they call them names? But anyway, but what they're doing down in Africa, and the people the people there and the people in the Caribbean, the people in the Americas need to know who they really are, because I believe that if we understand who we really are, that it's going to change a lot of things, things that that's going to be necessary for us to endure to the end of what's coming. So I think that this thing what Kyrie did is like twofold. It's a blessing because now more and more people are going to wake up to who they are,
Right.
because Satan and the powers to be that control the media. They've been trying to keep this suppressed for a long time, and they know that because of the fact that we are not all unified in promoting things for each other. Sometimes that he knew that that somebody in that level of star power, or public opinion, or people just look at him like as a public figure, and what he posts, people are going to look at. They're gonna say, oh, okay, what's this? And so by him doing that, just catapulted this movie and book to another level, because in the book it not only just talks about us being the Hebrews, but it talks about a whole lot of other stuff. It talks about
Mm-hmm.
Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about Christianity, Islam, Talmudic Judaism, the music industry. The mass media. It talks about a lot of things. It's deep. It's really deep. Our people are lost in many ways. Believing that uh, they're indigenous Indians, believing that they're Egyptians, believing that they're Canaanites, believing that they're Sabaeans, Cushites, all these different things. And so I had to address a lot of these things so that people can get a clear understanding that our true identity is the Israelites. Aside the fact that
Mm-hmm.
we want to be everything else other than the Israelite, I had to also address that, and then also address the powers to be that
Right.
are afflicting our people.
So now with the powers that be, that's where the whole now from what I've seen and observed in the documentary, I don't see no anti-Semitic um, stuff in there. What has anyone ever brought to you what was actually anti-Semitic in the movie, or is it just something that they're just using to make people not have an interest at all in the movie?
The only thing that they bring up, as you know, is the Holocaust. That they
Right.
said that I denied the Holocaust, and uh, aside from that, that's the main thing that they constantly bring up. In spite of the fact that the whole movie, 3.5 hours, is not about the Holocaust. They know that. They know
Right.
the movie's not about the Holocaust, but that's the only thing they can bring up to discredit the movie as a as a
Mm-hmm.
as a last minute attempt to get people to say, "Oh, I'm not watching that anti-Semitic film." Even
Right.
Jewish people that see that, they're not going to want to watch it because they're thinking that it's going to be, only talking about the Holocaust and we're trying to hurt people and all this stuff. If they really watch the movie, they'll actually see that everything that I'm seeing in the movie is valid. Is valid,
Right.
and they can't debunk it.
Right. And that's why I wanted you to say that on record because the term anti-Semitic is just being thrown on about that movie, and there's nothing anti-Semitic in the movie by their definition or the biblical definition. There's nothing like that. So I wanted you to get that on record. What is your opinion on Kyrie, if you have any? And I'm definitely gonna open it up to people that have questions. Just if you could, and if and this is what I say to everybody that has a question. What I've observed the past couple of days, the brother has been in other stages, and it usually leads to someone attacking the brother or doing something like that. And I think just like with Kyrie, regardless of what you believe in, this brother needs to be supported. That's why his link is up at the top. Y'all should all be ordering. If you haven't ordered his documentary or the book, y'all need to click that link up at the top, order that documentary, order the book, and we should support the brother. So I don't mind any question, and he's not going to mind any question. This is me saying that, just seeing what the brother has had to endure. I think he's endured enough. So I think y'all should definitely get all your information from him. Ask your questions. I'm going to ask him a couple more questions. Then, of course, I'll open up to the mods first. If y'all have any questions, then anybody else on the floor. Make sure y'all share the room. It's 724 people in here. Let's get up to like 500 shares. Put this at the top of the clubhouse. Again, you on the One West side of Clubhouse on the One West 100 side of Clubhouse. Shout out to Wack for creating the club on this side. And this is why we're doing this room to bring this attention and information to y'all. So the question I have for you, and if you have an opinion on it, this will be my last question exclusively. After this, again, the moderators, if you have a question, y'all can ask a question. What is your opinion or take on Kyrie? Of course, we know Kyrie's the one that shared it. They got mad at him when he wouldn't say the words "I apologize." He has since said the words "I apologize," and I believe they gave 6 things that he has to do before he can get reinstated because he got suspended. So, what is your take on that, if any, that you have as far as Kyrie um, on that scenario?
Um, I think that Kyrie, Kyrie is only, I think, 30 years old, something like that. And, I'm 46, and that's when I was 30 years old. I didn't know, I didn't really know a lot of stuff. I didn't know it. None of the stuff I know right now that I know. And, he knows that he's finding these things out now when a lot of us, if you're 46 or 45, you didn't know 15 years ago. And I'm sure he's a reader of books and he likes to study a lot of things. And I think that he just needs maybe more guidance and direction from older people, like elders, that can give him some advice and some wisdom on what he should be doing, what he should be saying in front of the media, um, what they're going to be looking at when he talks on camera, and everybody's listening to everything he says. Same thing with Kanye. Kanye's Kanye, but Kanye says a lot of things, and we're looking at Kanye like we're behind him, like he's the champ for America, for Black Americans. But a lot of times people don't, they discredit what he says because they're like, okay, Kanye West said this. I don't understand why he said that. It's confusing to me. And now he's saying this. Now he's saying that, and that's why they think they label him as being bipolar or having some kind of issue mentally. But with Kyrie, I mean, I just see Kyrie's is inside. He's battling a lot of things, and you can kind of you can probably look at him and tell when he's speaking, that he's wrestling with a lot of stuff. And we don't know his whole personal business behind the scenes, but you know he said what he did. He said what he said. He expressed his freedom, his right to express, and his right to have free speech in front of the whole world. And he really didn't say anything. He just expressed himself in regards to sharing the link on his social media, and that was it. That was really it. He didn't really talk. He didn't
He
really
didn't. He
say
didn't
anything
say
about the
one word.
movie. Like,
Right.
I watched this is what I liked about the movie. This is what I learned. He didn't do like a review of the movie and tell people what he learned about it. He just posted it, and everybody was like, "Why did he post that?" And let's check it out and see what it's about. And then the Jews, when they found out that the movie, you know, um, is about waking up black people, the only thing that they could hone in on was that one quote from that Jewish man, and and that one quote automatically discredits the whole film as being anti-Semitic, and that's just a trick that they use. And Kyrie, unfortunately, by doing that, he probably didn't even think that it was going to be a big deal, because when he watched the film, I'm pretty sure he didn't think that it was all anti-Semitic. But they can piece apart one thing in that movie and say that it's anti-Semitic. And the one thing that they found that they wanted to use against Kyrie was that in the movie Ron Dalton denies the Holocaust. So that's the anti-Semitic thing about it.
All right. Appreciate that. Again, welcome to One West on the Hunter side. The title of this room is Hebrew to Negroes. Author discusses Kyrie Irving in the documentary. We're in the room with Ron Dalton, the author of the actual movie. He definitely gave a good history of how he came up with it. So we found out he actually wrote 4 books, not just one. It was a black sister from Detroit. Shout out to King Yo. I know he liked that. That made the book possible to even be published. He wrote the movie. The movie has been on Amazon since 2019, and of course in 2022, this year, that's when Kyrie Irving shared the link to the video that caused all the mass hysteria, which for those of us that are in the truth, we applaud things like this. We applaud the truth being able to be pushed, no matter how much the struggle is, like Ron said, the truth has to come out. So I'm going to definitely open up the floor to the moderators first. So if any mind has a question, of course, y'all can definitely ask him a question on any subject y'all choose. His link, I pinned a different link up to the top. That's his business card, digital business card. Shout out to 10K for creating the card for him. And so, if anybody has a question on the stage, the floor is now open to y'all. I want to yield to the mods first. If y'all have a question, and then, of course, anybody in the audience, y'all can ask them a question as well.
Yeah, could you hear me? Because I had a question for Ron real quick.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, Ron, what's going on? It's Daniela. What's going on, King? Good to speak to you.
So,
I have a question because I don't want this to get glossed over because it's extremely important because this is what's being parroted in the media. So I want everybody in this room, those that are not aware of this information, I want you to have a chance to elaborate on this a little bit further than you did. So again, there are quote unquote anti-Semitic claims against your movie. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and you definitely can elaborate. It's with respect to the number of Jews that were killed during the Holocaust. So, what you did was you brought light to the fact that amongst Jewish scholars, not African Americans, not Hebrew Israelites, but amongst Jewish scholars, there is a debate about whether it was actually 6 million or less. They're debating that. You simply made reference to that conversation. And they skipped over them arguing about it and called you the anti-Semite, but not the people that's actually having the argument. You want to laugh?
the, yeah, that's it. Because he's not the only Jewish person that has said about the number, and he just happened to be the one that I use in the quote. That you remember in the quote, it says that 6 million people died in the Holocaust.
Hey, Ron,
He
give them
didn't
the
say
reference though, Ron. Don't talk like you're
that
talking to me.
the Jewish man.
Talk to the people give the
Yeah,
people the name of the person that said it and everything. Don't talk like you talk.
yeah, his name was Harold Wallace Rosenthal. He was a Jew. He worked for Senator Jacob Javits, who was once the attorney, New York City Attorney General, and he had an interview. In the interview, he laid out 5 points that he said were false, at least in his opinion. And one of those points is that 6 million people died in the Holocaust. He didn't say that the Holocaust never existed. He never said that that the Holocaust was actual a real historical event. He didn't. If he wanted to say that, he could have said that one of the five falsehoods is that the Holocaust was a real historical event. He said that 6 million people died in the Holocaust, and so just like all the Jewish people that we see that other than him that have questioned that number, they always question the number. Nobody's going to sit here and say that World War II and Hitler and the Third Reich and the persecution of the Jews and what they went through did not happen at all in history. We can see it. We can see TV. We can see TV and video, and you can go to Getty and Alamy, and you can look at the pictures and know that something happened in that time frame in the Rhineland in Eastern Europe for them to even have the reason to come to Israel. So you have to have a reason for them to come to Israel, 1948. So we know what went down over there, but this Jewish man, had an issue with the number. And that issue with the number from the Jewish man, because he said it, I didn't say it, labels me an anti Semitic. But when a Jewish person says something like, if the Jewish person says we're not the real Jews, they're not going to say he's anti Semitic because he's Jewish, just like them. If a Jewish person says that Jesus Christ wasn't a Jew, then he can't be considered anti-Semitic because he's Jewish. They can't use that term on somebody that's Jewish because you can't be anti-black if you're black. So I mean, but that's the way how the media and the Jews paint the narrative and get everybody to jump on this anti-Semitism bandwagon that vilifies people that are labeled as anti-Semitic, and that's what Kanye West went through, and that's what Kyrie is going through, and nobody can seem to challenge their word because they're the ones that created it, and they're the ones that are able to enforce the punishment of being labeled an anti-Semitic.
Thank you for that, Ron. That was important. Thank you. Yak, you.
Kind of again, if any of the other mods, again, I want to yield to the mods first. If they have a question for Ron on the subject, I wanted to yield to them first. So, do any other moderators have a question for Ron?
Yeah, let me go. Let me go quick, Captain. This is 10K.
Hey, go ahead.
Uh, what's up, Ron? Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about the support the black men in Clubhouse are using their influence to spread your message? How do you feel about that?
Wait, say the question again.
Yeah, and let me correct. How do you feel about the support you're getting from the black men and women on Clubhouse to spread your message and expose the message they're trying to hide? How do you feel about that support you're getting from us?
I think that I'm getting a lot of support from the black community right now, from what I see on social media and on the news.
No, he asked you how
I mean,
you feel about it.
you
Like,
know,
how do you feel about the impact of the support that you're getting?
oh, the impact is great. We need to have support uh, in regards to something that we all believe in. Many of us believe that you know Jesus wasn't white, and that we are the original Hebrews, and that you know we are the true Jews, we're Israelites, and now it's just the time that this thing that Kyrie did is bringing people together to speak out all together on their platforms about our identity is not just so-called Negro and African American, but now we're stepping up and saying that we are the Israelites. We're acknowledging this, and if we haven't acknowledged this, now we're finding out that we are, and we're proud about it, and we're not we're not trying to hide it or be embarrassed by saying it because we want to still be labeled a Christian. I think people now get the point that you can call yourself a Christian, but your identity and your heritage, your lineage, where you come from, is that of the seed of Jacob. And so that's what has a lot of people fired up. And we're not taking this narrative anymore that you guys need to just be quiet and just accept your slave movies every year and just acknowledge that you guys are descendants of slaves from Africa, and that's it. So this is actually good. What's happening?
Anybody else? Any other mods got a question? And I can take care. If you got another question, of course you can ask. I was just making sure the mods know they can too.
Yeah, Captain, I'm just trying to set the pace as to what we should do as independent business owners on the app. Because the reality of the situation is, if our opinion is tied to our income, we're screwed. So if we don't, as independent individual, be willing to risk it all, restart it all for the truth, we're gonna be in trouble. There should be more public figures coming out and sharing this energy. So I think what we're doing here is starting something that'll go viral. So I'm all for it. I'm all for the ride. Thank you so much, Captain. Thank you so much, Moses. I'm here to support.
No sweat, 10K. Anybody else got a question? As far as the mods, before I give it to the floor. Any other mods got questions? All right. One question from the audience, real fast, Ron. It's a quick question you can answer. Chill D asked, has anyone in the media reached out to you in regards to the documentary, the movie, or the book?
You mean like Newsweek, people like that?
Yeah, like any like news outlets or anything like that. That was one of the questions that was asked from
Uh,
the audience. And if anyone else has a question in the audience and you don't want to come up, you can type it in the chat or message me directly. But that was the question they had, Ron.
yeah. So uh, CNN, the Washington Journal, Newsweek, I think the Washington Post, and one more, but they want is phone interviews that they can listen, and then they can hang up and then
That's
write
what I
down
was
what they
going
want.
to. Right. That's what I was going to. So not nothing live where they can hear, the people can hear your answers raw. More like
Yeah,
something where they can record it and edit it. So have
yeah.
you done any? I guess that would be a question I would ask. Have you done any interviews
Um,
since then?
no, one guy called me and he said he was with the Washington Journal or Washington Post, and he said he should be excited what's happening right now. Your
Mm-hmm.
book and your movie wasn't really well known, and now it's getting media attention across the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, are you seeing an increase in sales?" Mm-hmm.
And I said, what do you think? I said, before, I'm just, a filmmaker and book author in Michigan, and I don't have a million followers. And I said, Kyrie had millions of followers, and he posted my book and my movie to his followers. So
Hmm.
automatically, what do you think? What happened to my
Right.
sales? That happened. So you just answered your own question. And then he asked me, well, can you tell me how many people have bought your book and your movie since then? And I said, why is that important? And he said,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's kind of important to know how many people have been affected by your movie and your book since you did that. He said, is there a way you can find out? I said, well, and I knew where he was going with it. I said, there's analytics. Yes, you can look it up and find the analytics of how many people have rented it or bought the book or movie or whatever. And then he said, can you go look right now and just give me a ballpark figure? And I said, no. I said, because that's none of your business and it's not important. And he said, well, why can't you just tell me? I said, because it's none of your business, not important. I said, why do you care how many people have seen the movie or watched it? If I told you 15 million, or what are you going to say? Are you going to be happy? You're going to be sad? You're going to be mad? Or who are you going to report it to? Are you gonna start splitting bullets when you tell your people that Ron Dalton said 15 million people watched the movie? Because they're looking at the fact that how many people have been affected and seen this movie, because they're trying to count how much blood
Right.
loss has happened amongst
Right.
this movie out. They're trying to assess the damage. And then, also it says how much money has this guy made. He made money, and on top of that, he's caused a lot of damage in terms of the other nations now understanding that we are the true Israelites. So they're trying to do damage control and figure out, okay, we need to stop this and stop the bleeding as fast as we can by getting Kyrie to apologize and denounce the film and move on to another topic of the news, so we can just end this discussion and Kyrie can go back to playing basketball and people can stop talking about Ron Dalton's book and movies
Right.
on the media. So that's all. That's really all at the end of the day what they want to know when they call these
Mm-hmm.
questions. They want to know, how'd you make the movie? You know, uh, who helped you? Did you talk to Kyrie Irving? Did y'all talk on the phone? Did you have funding? You have sponsors? And how much did it cost to make the movie? And did you go to all these locations to make the movie? And this and that. And I just told the guy, look,
They're
I
trying
said,
to track your whole thing. They want the whole rundown. It sound like
they want the whole rundown. And like I said, you can make a movie with a computer and a
that's
pro.
it.
And
Right.
he said, I don't understand. I said, a computer and an editing program. I said, like Final Cut Pro, like Adobe Premiere, After Effects, DaVinci Resolve. I said, these are editing programs you can use on your computer to make a movie. And so he said, well, you had no training. I said, but again, you got YouTube and you can
To you,
learn.
so the people can know who's this asking you and saying all this stuff to you,
the
or
Washington
what? The
Washington
Washington
Post.
Post. And
Yeah.
I wanted people to be aware, because the reason, part of the reason why they're doing it, not just to shut you down, but also how could someone, as I'm hearing you say, you could do this with Final Cut Pro and the Adobe and stuff like that. I could only imagine in their minds is like, how could this N word do that with just Final Cut Pro? Like, you understand what I mean? Like, how could he? It can't be that somebody had to have funded you. Somebody had to have done it, and you're making it so simplistic, and it almost sounds a little bit too much for them to digest that part. You understand?
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't believe a lot of what I said. He thought I had funding, but
Right.
I kept the answers the same, and
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to know where I was at. I said it's not important. Like a lot of times the Jews they will ask you, so where do you work at? What do you do?
Right.
Where do you live
Mm-hmm.
at? They want to know all these things so they can make their phone calls and maybe get you fired,
Mm-hmm.
or they start
Mm-hmm.
watching you. And so I told them, none of your business. You don't need to know that.
Damn
You,
right. And one
because
thing I want to point. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ron.
no, some of the stuff they might want to put in their article, but some of the stuff they want to also report back to whoever. And I didn't give them all the information that they wanted, basically. And I just kind of played with them on the phone. And then, but they anyway, despite all of that, they still go back and write what they want to write.
Mm-hmm. And then two things. One thing I wanted to point out. The reason why you was able to do it, of course, because the Lord was with you.
So you could have had a stick. You could have had a black and white TV. You'd have been able to do it. The second question, somebody asked was, did any black media reach out to you? And I know you mentioned the Washington Post, but did any like black media reach out to you or offer any type of support or anything like that? And these are questions, of course, that I'm getting, and I'm just asking them as I get them. So that was one of the questions they wanted to know.
Not really. Not really. The Breakfast Club, no. Drink Champs, no. None of these major black media outlets have not reached out to me to have an interview. No.
10K. That's what make what 10K said about us using like Clubhouse. We're streaming this on YouTube as well, because we'll support you. You know what I mean? And we'll push this information out. And that's what makes it so important to use every media stream that we have to get this type of information out. I did hear somebody come off mute. I don't know if they had a question.
That was me, Cap. Salakia. What's going on, Ron? This is Officer Chapat, ISBK. I just want to ask you real quick. Have you gotten any opposition from like that community? You know what I'm saying? Like some of their so-called fighters or warriors. Like how we would get apologists. You know what I'm saying, when we go against Christians. Have any of these rabbis tried to come at you and try to dispute it in the midst of this media storm that's going on right now?
No rabbi has emailed me. Um, the only thing they want to do is shut me down from YouTube because that's probably where they see the largest following. And when I posted videos after the Kyrie incident, the videos started getting over 200,000 views in less than a week. And so after that happened, after that one video that they did, I think it's still on YouTube. It has like almost 500,000 views. They took down the video I did after that. They took it down. They gave me two strikes, and they've been scouring YouTube from old videos like 2 years ago to give me all types of strikes so that they can, of course, tell you that the next strike you get, your channel will be deleted. So right now I can't post on my main YouTube channel because they know that if I post on YouTube now, that the YouTube views are going to be 200, 300, 400, 500,000 on YouTube. And so they had to shut that down and probably give me another strike within 10 days so they can just eliminate that channel from YouTube, so people can wonder, well, how do we find out about Ron Dalton? And so TikTok and Instagram, they're also shadow banning me on Instagram, so people can't easily find me. They can't tag me. It's a lot of things that they just can't do on Instagram because YouTube is finding all that it can do to shadow ban you and silence you, so that nobody can see what you're doing. So that, like, if I come out with another movie or two movies or another book, how are people going to know about it unless I'm on social media advertising it? Because we're not going to have celebrities that are just going to start posting Ron Dalton this did a new movie, go check it out. That's not gonna happen, at least in the NBA or the NFL or black celebrities, actors, comedians. They're not going to do that and get it out to the whole world. That is the ultimate piece of marketing, is to have a celebrity market your stuff. And then with the free marketing the Jews have done, they actually catapulted it even further. But in terms of me being relevant to the public eye, in terms of what I'm doing and what I'm doing in the future, by shutting me down from social media, then they can kind of suppress the Hebrews to Negroes movement, unless other black people on social media that have, I have maybe 50,000 followers, 100,000, 200,000 followers, that they share it too, and then it starts to become a thing that where everybody's talking about Hebrews to Negroes on social media from the black community, and that's the thing that they probably don't like, the fact that this has caused a lot of black YouTube channels and white to talk about Hebrews to Negroes, because it's given the movie and the book free marketing and advertising. So it's actually doing the opposite of what they intended to do, which is to conceal it, and that's called the Streisand effect. Like Barbara Streisand, it's called the Streisand effect. So you try to suppress and cover something up, but in doing so, you draw more attention to it, which creates the opposite effect of what you try to do in the first place, which is to cover it up.
Hey, Salaki, I got a question if I could, Cap.
Good, good.
Hey, shalom to the brother, man. This awesome Malakma with the ISUPK. My question is, like right now, with all the light being shown, with all the attention being put on you and Kyrie and the whole Jewish and Israelite community, like what would you require from black people now? When I mean black, I mean anybody that identifies as black, the so-called Hispanics and Native Americans and all that. What do you require from us now? Now that everybody has your ear, you know what I'm saying? Or now that you have everybody's ear, Salaki, what do you require from them?
I would just say support. And support doesn't just mean, you know, keep up the good work. We're praying for you. Hang in there. Uh, don't back down. Don't give up. Don't let them buy you out. All this, stuff that I've been getting. It also means that we have to support in promoting the work, the content to get it out there to the whole world, and then being the fact that people know that I'm a filmmaker and a book author, and I don't have Kyrie Irving or Kanye West money. And if the Jews are successful in taking down the books and the movies from Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or Vimeo on demand or any platform that they can search and find, and then go to that platform and say, we there's a movie on your platform that's filled with hate speech and anti-Semitic Semitism. You need to take it down. And if they take these things down, then that destroys a lot of the income that that I rely on in terms of a filmmaker. As an independent filmmaker, you only make money from movie showings if you can get it into Hollywood. If you can't get into Hollywood, like the major theaters, like Avengers and Will Smith movies and Denzel Washington movies, then you're stuck with getting your film on these platforms like Netflix and Vudu and Redbox and Amazon. Amazon is one of the least difficult platforms to get your movie on. And once you take that away for independent filmmakers, then the filmmaker, what does he have left to do other than to put it on his own platform, or to put it on YouTube for free, or to let it sit on his hard drive and not make him no money, so that he can't have the money to make another film. He may
So,
not have the money to actually take care of the family, and then he will have to go back to being like a regular 9 to 5 worker.
do you have or need? This is one of the questions for Dr. O. She's on the stage, but this was something she had put in the back chat. Sis, I don't know if you want to ask the question yourself, or I could ask for you if you want. If you're on the stage, the question she had was, do you have or do you need any investors? Being that you mentioned about the difficulty and the support, I think that's a good question to ask. Um, so that's the question that she asked.
Yeah, I need investors, because at the end of the day, to do really nice movies, you need to pay people. You got to pay editors. You can have a team of editors, not just me doing everything. And you got to have audio engineers. You got to have people that are skilled in videography, photography, drones. You got to have money for travel, to travel to different countries, like going to Africa. Just like the white Jews, when they go into Africa and they go into Zimbabwe, they talk to the Lemba Jews. They go to South Africa, they go to Ethiopia, they go to Nigeria, talk to the Igbo Jews. They go to Ghana, they go to Rwanda, they go to Congo, they go to Tanzania, they go to Uganda, they go to Senegal, they go to Cameroon, they go everywhere. Trying to find these black people that are keeping these traditions and customs, and they do a documentary talking about the lost tribes of Israel, but then they say they state, they believe, they say. This is how the Jewish filmmakers, how they make their documentaries when it comes to black people. They claim to be descendants of the children of Israel. They claim to be, from the house of Gad. They claim to be this. They say this. So that's coming from their perspective, and they can do that because when they when they desire to make a movie about finding the Israelites and reuniting the tribes, like they're the ones reuniting the tribes, then they can easily tell the Jewish community that our budget is $1 million or it's 500,000, and they can go out and they can get this money so that they can have a crew that flies everywhere to go do a documentary on these things, because the people are there. There's people in America, there's people in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, the Maroons, there's people in the Bahamas and Trinidad and Antigua and Haiti and other places that are willing to speak on camera about what they know in regards to the history of their people and the slave trades and the Jewish involvement in the slave trades and a lot of different things. So all these things could be documented and put on into film. It's just that to do these films, it requires a substantial amount of money, and without investors and crowdfunding and sponsorship, it's gonna fall on me to have to independently myself finance these movies with my own money, and to actually sit down and edit it myself, to do everything myself, and to
So
do true production. You have to have a team. Tyler Perry, like he said in that video, he said when he goes to Bahamas, he writes a whole show, and then he sends it to his team in Atlanta, and they start producing it. And then when he's ready to do another show, he goes to the Bahamas. He sits there, he chills for like a whole month, and gets his head right, and he writes a whole show. Then he kicks it back to his team in Atlanta, and it's his the producers and the filmmakers, and they start producing it. All he does is just do what he do best, and he has a team that constantly keeps putting out content to people in America. That's how he continues to do what he does. And the same thing with Marvel, the same thing with Walt Disney. They do the same thing, but in terms of Hebrews to Negroes films, obviously we're talking about real stuff that's going to impact our people. We don't have I don't have any support investors for these kind of things. And so
so
so right now as we speak, I have people that have the skills to edit. They've made movies. They have camera crews and equipment in the Caribbean, in Ghana, in Africa, in America, but we can't mobilize and start doing things unless we have money.
well, yeah,
Meanwhile,
no, yeah. So what I
yeah.
wanted to chime in, Ron. So back to 10K, which brought up an excellent point for those that do have that skill set or do want to invest, especially for the sister that asked the question in the back. Y'all need to click this brother's link at the top. That's his digital card. Get in contact with him. Get in touch with him. And if you have resources that could help the brother, I think that's what's important. So I just wanted to point that out. Anybody else have a question? It's popcorn style, so it's now open to the whole floor, whether you're a moderator or not. We just ask that, we keep the conversation clean. This is being recorded. So we want the conversation to be clean. So the floor is now open.
You tuned in to the office.